online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, get your tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago 2025, featuring Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and many more. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Former Republican National Committeeman Chairman, National Committeeman, I should say, former Republican National Committeeman for the Illinois Republican Party. Richard Porter has a piece at RealClearPolitics.com detailing some survey results. Just remember in context, if 2022, J.B. Pritzker got about 2 million votes. 70% of Illinois Democrats surveyed in the poll in question say it's appropriate to follow ICE officers. 63% say it's appropriate to block the entrance to ICE facilities. 70%, 63%, round numbers, 2 million. In addition, 40% think it's appropriate to pull ICE officers off of someone they are apprehending. That's called assaulting an officer. 40%. 14% think it's appropriate to throw objects at ICE vehicles. 10% think it's appropriate to spit on ICE officers. And just under 9% think it's appropriate to throw objects at ICE officers. 1 in 10 turns out to be a small percentage of a big number, which is a big number, 200,000. Asked another way, 42% of Illinois Democrats think violence to stop ICE agents from apprehending people is sometimes, mostly, or always acceptable. 4 in 10. Asked if political violence under certain circumstances was always, mostly, or sometimes, or never acceptable under certain circumstances. 21% thought violence was acceptable to silence a racist or a homophobe, as they define it. So, as Brandon Johnson defines it, like a racist is someone who uses the term illegal alien, which is race neutral, but so what? He says it's racist. So, 1 in 5 Democrats thinks violence is acceptable against a person who uses that phrase, I guess. 11% found violence acceptable against a flag-waving MAGA Trump supporter. 18% found violence against greedy corporate executives acceptable. Greedy as they define it. Nearly 1 in 5. Young Democrats expressed the most support for political violence. The 18 to 30-year-old demographic, 34%, 1 in 3, thought violence to stop ICE was always acceptable. 10% said acceptable against a flag-waving MAGA Trump supporter, always acceptable. 25% violence against a greedy corporate executive, always acceptable. Those should be pretty jarring numbers, don't you think? Per the running conversation we've been having all morning about the political violence as seen as a legitimate political tool by the left. Expressly so by the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, that birthed and are backing Zoran Mamdani in New York and Brandon Johnson in Chicago and all sorts of similarly situated mayors running the same program in big cities around the country. Starting to sink in, and you maybe get an appreciation of the threat level that's bubbling not too far below the surface. And so the focus yesterday on the Chicago press corps to continue to feed this beast, and I do mean beast, was on ICE Commander Greg Bovino in federal court getting chastised by Judge Ellis over ICE's judgment calls in using crowd dispersion methods like tear gas and pepper spray and so forth. And so now he's got to be whistled before the principal every day and make sure that she is satisfied that he's complying with her temporary restraining order while the matter of ICE's conduct or the limits of ICE's ability to defend itself and disperse the mob is litigated. And this is what Brandon Johnson had to say about Bovino, since we're going to focus on him and not the people who've been killed, maimed, raped, robbed by people in this country illegally in Illinois under sanctuary state.
What is happening, though, is Bovino is a barbaric individual. And I just hope that this judge provides some level of accountability.
He's the barbarian. Okay. Chris Clem is a former HHS advisor, retired Chief Border Patrol agent. Chris, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Man, it makes me want to, after listening to that poll, makes me want to join ICE and go to Illinois just to see these 18 to 34-year-olds talking a lot of smack on a poll. That's ridiculous, but you bring up a very good point. It is the underbelly of what the Democratic Party and the Progressive Democratic Party has become, and this is why you're seeing these assaults. These aren't protests. These assaults play out because in their mind, they've rationalized that they can do that. And leaders like that wimp leader in Chicago that just called Greg a barbarian, what kind of man is he to see a guy that, is leading people and calls him a barbarian? No, Greg is being a leader in a situation that's very tumultuous. Great.
These are just some of the headlines from Chicago, just in the last 60 days or so. Former WNBA star's mother killed in head-on collision with illegal immigrant. Migrant arrested 8 times since 2024, stabbed man and refused to delete a video. Migrant gets arrested for the 10th time in 10 months. Migrant charged with sexually attacking woman during Rogers Park home invasion, his 5th arrest since June. Federal issue detainer for migrant accused of vicious attack and rape on Northwest Side woman. Migrant arrested 16 times in Chicago is finally scooped up by ICE. 16 times. Migrant charged after cops find gun, inert grenade on CTA bus. Migrant mugged 85-year-old woman in Gold Coast, targeted others across Chicago, according to prosecutors. I mean, that's just a sampling. And but the focus, the real agents of chaos and disruption and violence are federal law enforcement agents, not people in this country illegally, and the small percentage of them that clearly have established they're predators by their behavior.
Yeah, it's quite comical to hear, especially right now in Chicago, Illinois, and other places like Los Angeles, California, and whatnot, that ICE and the federal agents are the problem that's causing the chaos and the crime to come out of control or go out of control in places like Chicago, when you can just list the things that you just talked about that occur almost daily. I just saw Greg's, Chief Bovino's Twitter account, another TDA gang member taken off the streets last week or so. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but don't let's get distracted by the fact that he's using crowd control devices. And I would comment, I think Tom Homan's made it very clear, these aren't crowd control. This is less lethal because the agents are being assaulted. Crowd control is a lot different. Some of the same munitions, but different techniques. This is, you threw something at me, I'm throwing something back to make sure I have a layer of protection so I don't get further assaulted. And by the way, this judge is really going down a slippery slope. And so your listeners know she's a Canadian-born person, right? She was born of Jamaican parents in Canada, became a naturalized citizen, public defender in Chicago, private sector in Chicago, gets appointed by Obama. Do you think we're going to get a fair shake when it comes down to federal law enforcement enforcing immigration laws by this judge? I hope the Chief Justice that oversees this Northern District kind of keeps gets the finger on the pulse here, so she doesn't, because she can't tell agents how to do their day-to-day tactics when it comes down to officer safety.
I mean, it's good to point that out, the judge's background. Another politician in a robe, no question. Yep. But this is not to say that ICE gets to act with impunity, and nobody is arguing that, but I just want to state it for the record and ask you if you've seen anything where you think an ICE officer has crossed the line and where there needs to be accountability with ICE too, in such instances where, say, that officer or in that situation, that was a bad judgment call. We made a mistake. We're going to own our mistakes. But this is in furtherance of public safety. But we are going to own our mistakes, and we are going to hold our officers to the highest level of conduct, which we do as a matter of course.
That's how I've operated for the 27 years I was in federal law enforcement. We held ourselves accountable when we violated rules, policies, and laws. That's why Greg showed up at the court. If he was not, didn't have the integrity, didn't have the rule of law top of mind, he would have never shown up. I see these videos, right? We're never going to see body cam until such time from the agents and officers. We only see what is allowed to us to be seen by the protesters. Yeah. And that particular video where he throws the tear gas, if you look to his immediate right, if you watch that, the other agents are raising up their rifles. I think it's our pepper ball guns to ready pistol or lining up to shoot this. There is something going on that we're not seeing. Why Greg had to do that, because the people around him are aimed in. Something is happening, but we don't get to see that. And all we do is hear the judge bloviating about, First Amendment rights and this and that. Well, they have a right to protect themselves and protect the public, and that's what they're doing. But if he's wrong, if the agents or officers have done something wrong in violation of policy, absolutely, you hold them accountable. They know that. But we don't operate Monday morning quarterback. The judge and the jury is supposed to see it from the eyes of the officer when they take those actions, because that is to protect the police so we can protect the laws and the people in this country.
He is Chris Clem, former HHS advisor and retired Chief Border Patrol agent. Chris, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
You got it, man. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Why would you take your precious metal collections to some fly-by-night roadshow that rolls into town once a year? The only thing you need to do is follow the road to Fox Valley Coins and show your gold or silver to Marlin and the team. Gold is at an all-time historical high, so don't keep sitting on your coin hoards or old jewelry that you've been saving to sell when the time is right. The time is right now. Prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with